Hello again, everyone. Should be the last of the videos. I think I should be able to cover everything with this last bit here. This is where I left off, and I just kind of want to make sure I state it clearly that the P53 in this one, because we have damage to the DNA, that CDK inhibitor is what it's promoting, and which is actually going to kind of shut down or put that cell into what's called a pause in G1 and put it into G0. So the big thing here is an inactivated complex is going to be the term that I wanted to kind of show from last time. Now, I put in a video here if you'd like to watch it. I'm not going to show it in this, but HHMI is a very, very good, reputable place to find out more information about the cancer and how it actually works. Um, Now, for me though, I want to talk to you about again the cancer cells here and kind of that number of mutations of the cells. This is an example where the cancer cells will be something what we call, and I'm going to write it out right here, nice and big. It's called monoclonal. And monoclonal means it's starting with one. So if we go here and we see we have a first mutation to one cell, the other line is perfectly fine. But then again, we could see from that one bad cell with that one mutation, we have a second and then again uncontrolled proliferation. So notice this line down here doesn't kind of go into cancer because it's only got one mutation, but the one in the top has multiple mutations. So again, this is the uncontrolled proliferation because we have multiple mutations in that one particular cell line. So again, look at your book, look at chapter 18. It's really good about showing you kind of examples with this. Here's some examples of the number of mutations it takes for certain cancers. So like retinoblastoma, you can see these are the minimal requirements, but we have 2, Wilms tumor 2, colon cancer is 5 to 7, and that one usually typically starts with that APC is the one that, again, is the primary one to start it off. And you can see these are the areas where the sites of mutations are going to take and occur. Now, the small cell lung cancer too, you can see 10 to 15. So hopefully you could see that, again, we refer to cancer sometimes as an old person's disease, and it's not really typically thought of these days that way, but it was at one time when I first started teaching, that's what they would kind of want us to say. But we can see now that it's just however you accumulate those mutations that can lead to that particular cancer form. Now, I want you to think of like cancer cells and tumor suppressor cells and proto-oncogenes. Oncogenes is like a car. So when you have two normal genes at the very top right here that we see, we have, again, tumor suppressor genes and proto-oncos. So we have a braking system and a gas system. So we avoid the cancer here because everything is working perfectly. Now, when we have one mutation, what happens is it's like losing the front brakes on the car, but a car has also back brakes. So we can still stop the car because it has brakes in the back. Now, if you notice here, when we have two mutations, and I had to kind of draw this in here, we don't have any brakes at all. And then if we kind of now have a gas pedal that's stuck, that's what kind of leads us into this cancer. And again, you can see though, it's an accumulation of mutations. It's not just that one front brake being gone, but it's both brakes being gone and the gas pedal sticking that can lead to that particular mutation. So let's take a look here at some of the kind of the differences in terms of, those proto-oncogenes. This is kind of a little bit repetitive, but that RAS proto-oncogene receives a transferring signal. When it doesn't need a signal anymore, that's when it's going to turn into that of an oncogene. So I could have removed this slide, and I probably will for next time. But again, it's just knowing that a proto-oncogene is what you want to have because you can stop and start the cycle. But an oncogene, you're not going to be able to shut that one off. So let's look at just some other examples here of the genes. This is again going back to that retinoblastoma, and again looking at it being a tumor suppressor gene, and the region that contains it, it's right here, and that's on that Q arm. So this is kind of like an example, like an acrocentric chromosome is, again, that P arm is very, very short, the Q arm is going to be longer, and that error occurs right in that Q arm. And that 14 stands for the region. So you could see the region 14 as the area where that mistake is occurring. Now, breast cancer, again, for women, but can also occur in men. Now, my deaths per year, it fluctuates, but usually it's about right here is the example of what we have. Excuse me one second. My puppy's getting into things. So, but looking at here, the BRCA1 has something in common with like the retinoblastoma. And what I mean by that is if you have this particular mutation, that BRCA1, it's a breast cancer, that's what it stands for, BR, then CA, breast cancer 1 gene. Approximately 90% will develop breast cancer, also ovarian cancer. So just like when we talk about the retinoblastoma, same type of thing is if you have that mutation, there's got to be a lot of precautions that go into air. And again, that's being that predisposed. Now, again, the medicines today are so much better. Healthcare is so much better. Our detection is so much better. Again, it's something that is definite positive. I mean, we are moving definitely in the right direction, even though we can't stop it completely, but early detection is going to be best. So here's kind of how it works. And the BRCA1 and BRCA2, there's two types here. One is on chromosome 13, that BRCA2, and BRCA1 is on chromosome 17. Now, BRCA1, I kind of put at the top right here in terms of how it works. But you could see that cell repair, cell cycle arrest, and cell death, it's all part of the genome stability. So that's what kind of that BR, again, that P53 are why they are so important to have. Now, again, I'm not going to really ask you many questions about this, but it's just being able to know where the mutations are located and to look and identify these mutations can help someone, again, kind of be better suited to track and maybe see the doctor more often or have more mammograms or, have better health care in order to kind of make sure they're not developing these particular mutations. Because there's a very high rate of people that have these mutations that develops particular cancer. But again, early detection is what's going to be the savior in this. Oops. Okay. So in terms of this here, again, you can kind of see in terms of the expression is highest in the G1 and S phase of the cycle. And the BRCA proteins are active when DNA is damaged. So again, these are these kind of repair departments so that the P53, if it's working properly, and this is working properly, when there's a mutation in this area, it gets repaired. But if that BRCA proteins are not functioning and made properly, kind of like going back and look at the RAS, it's going to lead to abnormal cell growth. The last one I want to talk about, and this is a particular form of leukemia. This is called the Philadelphia chromosome. It's a translocation. Now, this is very awkward and kind of, I say awkward, it's a very unusual cancer because we're actually crossing two different chromosomes, 9 and 22. So this was identified in Philadelphia. That's what they refer to it as the Philadelphia chromosome. But they also call it the CML, and this type of blood cancer, type of leukemia. And this is, I read a book on this, and it was really fascinating of their search for a cure for this. But there are known drugs on the market now that will help patients with this particular form of leukemia, but early detection is still going to be best. Now, if you notice here, the ABL and the BCR, they're on two separate chromosomes. But what happens is we create like a hybrid at this point, and that hybrid is this BCR ABL, and that is the one that when you have that, again, what it's doing is it's breaking the genes that's controlling part of the cell cycle. And this is what leads to the abnormal amount of growth of the white blood cells. So this again, it's just interesting because when we look at our chromosomes get tangled up all the time, but only certain chromosomes will actually exchange DNA. We'll look at this also when we look at a type of Down syndrome. It's called Robertsonian translocation. And again, it identifies that certain genetic disorders or cancers can happen when we exchange these particular parts of the chromosomes. So here's kind of more of what happens with this. So chromosomes break and convert a proto-oncogene to an oncogene, and that's what's happened with that CML. So again, usually we control the cell cycle with those particular genes, but when we create that hybrid doesn't allow for the cell signaling system to really shut off, and that's what causes. So the protein acts as a signal for cell division that overstimulates that cell to divide and occurs over and over and over. And again, that's something that we don't want to have. We want to be able to control it. Now, this is pretty much the end of my PowerPoint here. I just want to double check here to make sure this is the end of it. Yeah, so that's the end of the PowerPoint for me right now. Hoping you guys can kind of get a better feel for, again, how this works. And I'll cover in class with you a little bit more about, take questions that you have. I suggest you use sticky notes to kind of write down your questions. And just knowing quiz on Wednesday is really going to be more about the microarray, pedigrees, and I will pick one of the topics here. So you could have like an example of trying to understand how cell signaling is part of getting cells to, maybe turn on and turn off, or how a particular drug could work, or how we could inhibit the cell cycle. Now, I'm going to cover some of that with you guys on Monday, but hopefully you have a better understanding of this. And again, look at chapter 18 for additional help. And chapter 18, what I think like you'd know about is the driver versus passenger mutation. I talked about that in class, but I think you should know about that for the quiz on Wednesday too. Okay? You guys have a good night, and I will talk to you soon.